to What's Cooking New Ulm. I'm Rebecca FLiszar, the dietitian with the Hearts Beat Back Heart of New Ulm project, working to reduce and eventually eliminate heart attacks in the 56073 zip code. Our episode this week features Karen Moritz. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Karen is one of our public health nurses. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you interact with the Heart of New Ulm, Karen.
Okay. I'm from Brown County Public Health, and we do a lot of health promotion and health prevention activities, and one of our focuses right now is to reduce obesity by increasing physical activity and improving people's nutrition. It fits great with the Heart of New Ulm, and so we have been committee members to help with this project. We also have our own project going called SHIP, Statewide Health Improvement Program, and it fits perfect and interrelates with the Heart of New Ulm, trying to get people to increase their physical activity and improve their nutrition so we can work on their obesity.
Great. The Heart of New Ulm also uses the SHIP grant for our smoking cessation programs and some other programs as well. So our missions do overlap quite a bit. So it's a great partnership. It helps in funding, and it really helps promote both of our overall missions. So it's a good partnership. So Karen was kind enough to bring in a great recipe today. Tell us a little bit about what you'll be making.
Okay. I'm going to be making seafood linguine. This is probably something that people normally eat, but with a lot higher calories than how I make it. I try to adapt it so it meets my dietary needs, so I can stay on a schedule of eating healthy and nutrition.
Well, great. So tell us a little bit. You've made some modifications to a standard linguine recipe. What were some of those and where did they come from, or how have you come up with this recipe?
Okay. Actually, it's similar to a recipe that is in a regular cookbook, but they use a lot of oils to cook the vegetables in, and I use nonstick cooking spray. It works just fine in a Teflon pan, and it's not a problem. Some of the other things that I've done is I also use low-fat margarine, and I know that it's difficult sometimes to make a white sauce with low-fat margarine, but I find it with a thin white sauce that it works just fine.
Good.
So I don't need to use butter or regular margarine. And I used a flake crab meat versus a higher cholesterol containing, like a shrimp or a higher seafood, to kind of cut down on that cholesterol level too.
Good.
So.
And you know, we are using the imitation crab meat. It does have some regular crab in it as well, but it's a low-cost option as well. It's a good source of protein. It is low in cholesterol, and it's something that you can find in all of our grocers' shelves. So if the flake crab meat scares you away, you can most certainly substitute that for our imitation. So let's go ahead and start our recipe.
Okay. I usually start with my vegetables because they take the longest to cook, and we'll turn on the burner here and get a little bit warm. I usually use about 2 cups, and you know I don't measure everything, but we will today, just to kind of get an idea. Broccoli is a dark green vegetable, and I'm sure Becca would agree that it's healthy and has a lot of vitamins. And
yep. If you're not a milk drinker, incorporating things like broccoli into our diet is a good source of calcium, so it is a substitute for that. And we always encourage you to continue to consume your yogurts or your low-fat or fat-free milks, but if you don't, this is a good source of calcium among many other nutrients that come along with our greens, so that's great. And Karen, you've already started your water boiling. We'll be putting in our pasta as well, correct?
Right. I usually do that in the middle of everything, and so that is ready to go when I'm done with the vegetables and the white sauce.
And we're using a whole wheat pasta today. We are using the linguine noodles, and you know I did pick this up today. It was on sale. It's not any more expensive than a regular pasta, so something that you can easily incorporate into your diet as well.
And that's something that I had not incorporated in my diet until about a year ago, actually. And I really have watched my calories in my diet for many years, but I really like it. I wasn't sure I would, but I don't use anything but whole wheat pasta now for anything.
Great. Oftentimes when we make a switch to a lower fat or a healthier option, it's not that the taste is bad, it's just different, so it's what we become accustomed to eating. So, you know, if it's something that you've contemplated trying, go ahead and start making it a staple, and you'll find that if you try regular pasta, after a few weeks, you're not going to enjoy it as much as your wheat pasta as well. So, you know, it just takes time. It's a creation of a habit and a little bit of a change in the way we do things. So do give it a try.
Okay. And with that, the recipe calls for about 2.5 cups of it, but I use about a half a box. So.
All right. Karen, you mentioned too that you know not everybody likes all of these vegetables, but we can throw them in there, and you don't measure, but we can put in what we like. Again, these are to taste. So 2 cups is what the recipe calls for, but if you really enjoy broccoli, do feel free to add more. We can always take more vegetables into any meal that we have. So you know, don't go lightly on the vegetables.
And I think there's alternative healthy vegetables that people could use if they don't care for broccoli. Carrots might work. I haven't done that, but these are some of my favorites, so I enjoy using them. So
Even our white vegetables like cauliflower would be a good substitution. Our different squashes that are coming ripe at this time of the year would be great in this as well. So you can really color this up, change it around. You can actually use this then multiple times and have a different flavor by just changing your vegetables. So feel free to combine this recipe with others that you may have.
The broccoli takes the longest, so usually I start with that because it takes a little bit longer. And I like my vegetables a little bit crispier, so I don't cook them for a real long period of time.
So what are you looking for, Karen, on your broccoli? How are you going to know when that's done?
Actually, it just gets a little bit darker green.
Darker green,
Yeah.
okay, so that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I guess I can just kind of tell when it's ready to go.
That's okay.
And it's going to still be cooking when I add the onion.
Okay.
And so it'll still be in there a little bit longer, so I don't want it to get real done because then it ends up getting too done by the time you're done with that.
So these are green onions. They're also called scallions, so you can make that substitution. Often that's a little confusing for people in a recipe, but green onions are going to work just fine. And these two have a very different flavor, so if you're not particularly drawn to onions, you might want to go less on your green onions or your scallions, and if you enjoy onions, again, feel free to add as many as you'd like.
And I believe people probably could use just regular onion too if they wanted to. I just prefer these. I like them. I like the taste. So
Well, they're easy to cut up.
Yeah, they're very easy to cut up. That's the other advantage to
That's
that.
right.
I think I need a.
Put them in your cup here.
Yeah,
Scrape them in.
I can do that without too much problem.
They're going to be cooked now, so we're okay.
Yeah.
And again, with the imitation crab, that is already a cooked meat, so we're not as worried about cross-contamination with this meal, but we do have a separate cooking board for that, for cutting board for that as well. So again, we're always aware of that in our kitchen, our food safety and our cross-contamination. So because we are using a lean protein, we did come up with a second cutting board for that. All right, so while Karen gets these going, we're going to go ahead and check in with Holly and see what's new in Fit in 5.
Welcome to today's Fit in 5. We recommend at the Heart of New Ulm that people get 150 minutes of a moderate physical activity a week. That averages out to about 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. But one of the key questions we get is what is moderate and what is vigorous, and how can we tell if we're performing some type of moderate exercise, vigorous exercise, how do we monitor ourselves throughout the process? Well, moderate physical activity are going to be things that you can incorporate throughout your day. So gardening would be one. If you clean the house on a regular basis, that might be another one. Or if you have a pretty physically active job, those are going to be considered moderate activities. A light walk would also be considered moderate physical activity. Vigorous physical activity is going to be things more like running, walking briskly, biking, if you were to do an elliptical machine at a local club or a Stairmaster or some other piece of cardio equipment. That's going to be a vigorous type of physical activity. The vigorous physical activity is going to be a little bit better for our heart and lungs, but the moderate is great, and we want to get at least moderate activity in to the tune of 150 minutes a week. So how do we monitor our intensity? Well, there's 3 ways that we can actually do this. One is the heart rate, one is called a rate of perceived exertion, and the other one is called a talk test. And you may have heard briefly a little bit about each one of these. Heart rate is the most commonly used, and it involves a little equation that's 220 minus your age times a percentage. We take the heart rate either in the wrist in the pulse or in the neck in the pulse, with the pulse. You can count to 10 and go from there. If you have a chart around, if you're at a club or some type of physical activity facility, working out, you'll see a lot of charts like the target heart rate monitor and or target heart rate chart. These are actually great to use. You know, you can look at your age and you can kind of tell where you should be as far as a 10-second count is concerned. So if you're 35 and you're shooting for about that 70% of your maximum heart rate, your pulse should be about 22. The one, if you're looking at a more moderate activity pattern, you're looking more at your 55%. This can be a little bit complicated too, so what I like to do is have people use the rate of perceived exertion or the talk test. The rate of perceived exertion, you can see we have a chart here, and it's based on a scale of actually 1 to 10. I like to use 1 rather than 0 or 0.5, but 1 would mean that you're exercising and it's pretty light. You're not feeling a lot of intensity at that point in time. And 10 is going to be where you're working really, really hard, and taking one more step is going to be hard for you. We don't really want to be at that level of 10 for very long unless we're doing like an interval training where we're really pushing our cardio system pretty hard. Where we want to be if we're doing a vigorous workout is we want to be somewhere between about a 4 to a 6. So we're breathing heavily. We should have to breathe through our mouth. We shouldn't be able to breathe through our nose anymore, is basically what we're looking at. Another method I like to use is the talk test. So if you're working out with a buddy, for example, you shouldn't really be able to talk to them like I'm talking to you right now. You should be able to talk, but maybe not complete a full sentence. Conversely, you don't want to be to the point where you can't string 2 words together either, but it's a nice gauge. The mouth breathing is also a nice gauge of telling how hard you're working. You should, like I said, have to breathe through your mouth, not still breathe through your nose. These are just some general ideas that you can use to monitor your exercise intensity. You can also buy a heart rate monitor. There's a lot of different monitors out on the market now, and they are very useful if you're going to use them quite often, but they can be kind of pricey. So, you know, the perceived exertion, the talk test, even monitoring your heart rate are great ways to monitor your exercise intensity. With today's Fit in 5, I'm Holly.
Thanks, Holly. Be sure to stay active and follow Holly's tip to maximize your health and your heart well-being. Okay, Karen, where are we at?
Okay, I've added the green onions or scallions, whichever one you choose to put in there. And then I'm going to get my mushrooms ready.
Okay.
And I think we'll probably have to get the pasta out of there soon.
Okay.
I like to use fresh mushrooms. You can probably use canned, I imagine, but I prefer these.
You know, they do have a different taste than your canned, so they do come out a little bit nicer when we get them sauteed up in that pan, so that's a good idea for this recipe. Again, we're going to let that pasta boil for about 10 minutes until it's al dente is probably your best. We don't want it to get too soft. Our whole wheat pasta tends to clump or stick together a little bit if we overcook that, so you do want to keep an eye on that to make sure that your whole wheat is ready to go. So it's starting to smell good over there, Karen.
Yeah, I think it's probably close.
Okay.
So.
You're ready to drain those noodles?
Yeah.
All right, let me get that for you.
We are going to heat those back up a little bit after we make the white sauce, so they get a little bit more heat on them before it's done too. So this is one of those recipes that is a little bit more difficult to multitask while you're cooking it. So I usually when I choose to make this, I don't have a lot of other tasks going on at the same time.
Great. All right, your noodles are here for you.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay, Karen, so what are we throwing in there next?
Well, the mushrooms are in, and that would be the vegetables that I usually add.
Okay.
So I usually set these aside then, and they go back in to warm up after we get done with the white sauce. So we'll put those in there.
You're right, you're going to see as we move this pan, you're going to see that broccoli is really a nice bright green. That is a pretty color, and it shows all the nutrients that are going to be in this dish for us, so that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to move on to your sauce, correct?
Yeah, this is the thin white sauce, and I do make it fairly thin in pretty much all the recipes I use now. I don't use a real thick white sauce, and just add a little bit of cheese. It makes it nice and thick, and so it works out really well.
Good.
So.
Good. So we're using about 3 tablespoons, which is close to a 1/4 cup, and we're using an actual olive oil margarine, a low-fat margarine. So this is going to be a lower calorie option. It does have a different taste to it, so if you're looking for that absolute butter taste, this won't fit into your palate quite yet, but it is something that, again, you can grow to like and make a great substitution. It is an olive or canola oil-based spread, and therefore it has the lower cholesterol, and it has those good fats that help bring up our good cholesterol and down our bad. It will improve that ratio and is most certainly heart health. So with this then, Karen, we're going to be adding what? Skim milk and...
Yeah, we add a little bit of flour to kind of make the white sauce, and
Okay.
that Takes just a little bit of a little bit more talent than I have sometimes, but.
Well, you might notice that it looks like we have a lot of butter in this pan right now, but if you take a look at all the other ingredients of this recipe, as well as the number of portions from this is really going to break down and still fits in our heart healthy diet. So don't be dissuaded by this. This is actually going to work out just fine.
And I just add the little bit of flour here to try to get ready for that white sauce here.
Okay. So Karen, maybe you can tell us a little bit on what we can expect from SHIP coming up soon, or what other projects are active in our community.
We're still working pretty actively with the schools, and kind of a lot of the schools in Brown County have taken a project on, and they are doing things in their PE classes and in their classrooms to increase activity, and that's been really good. In fact, we just got done doing a kind of a field trip to visit the schools, and we actually went and did activities with the kids so we could see what they were doing.
Good. So what are all of our schools doing?
One of the schools is in their after school and before school program. They're doing Take 10, which is a program where they take time out of their regular activities and do some physical activity, and Energizers, which is another program with that, so we did a few of those. This summer they did a walking school bus, which was good. They actually walked to some of their activities. In the summer they have a lot of programs that they go to, like the Vogel or wherever, and then they walk to them instead of take a bus to them, so that was really good.
Great. Great.
So,
you know, the medical center too has our DAN program, which is our pediatric nutrition program for our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. We've had major improvements in the amount of milk consumed and a reduction in the amount of pop consumed. And you know, these SHIP programs have complemented that and really built on what was already started. So, you know, again, a great partnership between the medical center and the SHIP grant. So we really appreciate those partnerships. So that's great.
And we've got, along with the Heart of New Ulm, as another complement, we do provided some funds for one of the Heart of New Ulm employees to work with some additional work sites for smoking cessation, which we've been that's going very well, actually, in New Ulm and in the county area, but in New Ulm especially. And
yes, that's our own Holly Globitz that gets out there and gets them into their smoking cessation programs, and she's really has had a great success rate with that. So that's been wonderful for our community. So.
And now I'm just adding the milk. This is kind of the patient side of cooking, is when you have to be a little patient to get that white sauce to thicken up a little bit before you can add the cheese and things. So.
I've had bypass, and the one nurse said that somebody from New Ulm was in there every week, which was not good.
Everyone needs a kick to get going, and sometimes that's the hardest part, is finding your start.
Special. It's unique. Not happening anywhere else in the world, but it's happening in our backyard, right here in New Ulm.
I see there's a lot of people that have changed because of this.
I pretty much eat nothing that I used to, and everything that I used to not.
The number one thing our community is saying about the Heart of New Ulm project is look at the difference that you see just on the sidewalks. You're seeing people out walking their dogs, with their kids, older people, younger people, all sorts of people. The goal of the Heart of New Ulm project is pretty simple: eliminate heart attacks. The difference, though, about our community is that we're going to change it.
We fondly refer to New Ulm as a bunch of pretty stubborn Germans. And if they get their heart behind something, that's what they're going to do.
Knocking on the door 20,000 steps today, and it's only 1 o'clock. Woo!
New Ulm sees this as something that is theirs. They take ownership, they take pride in the results.
This is a long-term project, which we're already beginning to see fewer
medical procedures coming out, cardiology procedures coming out of New Ulm.
I'm seeing far more strength. I'm 55 years old and I'm the strongest I've ever been in my life, which is kind of a crazy thing. Usually 25 you'd say that instead of 55.
For the Community Health Challenge, we divided New Ulm up into 23 different districts, and each district got the name of a German town. We're at the Dusseldorf Dance Your Heart Out, and it started that they went door to door in their neighborhood, which is about 200 households, and they put a flyer out for the dance. First week, about 50 people came. And now people are coming in from neighboring communities, from all over town.
We've done swing dancing and square dancing and line dancing, just to get the families out and do something different and enjoy the weather and get people active and motivated and maybe lose a little weight.
It's fun and you love it and you don't even know that you're exercising. Folks are very much on board, and that speaks to of the general public as well as the business sector.
There's a new menu here. There's the Heart of New Ulm menu: salmon, baked chicken, a fresh fruit / steamed vegetable salad, some wraps too, some chicken wrap and a portobello wrap. And when you show folks this menu, they're very, very keen to it, and they're very, very hip to it, and they want to be part of it. The Heart of New Ulm is a big deal to a lot of people.
A lot of people come in here that are in my Weight Watchers group, and I help them order and figure out their points values.
The greatest thing maybe is that people say, I can take care of my own health.
If the current trends continue, it's going to be very hard for our society to afford health care. So we think it's imperative that organizations like Linguine get involved in promoting health, as well as continuing to do a good job of treating illness.
8, 9. I had high blood pressure 10. And I was pre-diabetic, but that's already become under control in the last 6 months.
When you experience something that changes your life in a really positive way, and then you share that with another person, or another person sees you do that, they're inspired and they're motivated by you.
It's our first 5K, and we're like excited about this.
The question is, are we going to be able to maintain this for a long time and to the broader population? A 10-year study is a long time. It takes a long time to change the idea of an entire community. So far, we've got a great start.
We're blessed with having a community that understands about taking care of itself and taking care of its citizens, and we understand from a business community that that cost of health care is holding us back. If we don't get a handle on that, it's going to be very difficult for us to be competitive. So I can't tell you how proud I am.
People are having a great time. I think that they're learning that it can be a part of their normal routine.
It's about taking care of my people, my community. It's about, this is the place that my grandparents invested, my grandparents' grandparents, their parents. They're getting active, they're attending classes, they're getting out and exercising, they're taking responsibility in lots of different ways. My ask is that they continue to do that, get involved, take care of yourself, do what you can to support the Heart of New Ulm project. Let the project help you in making changes in your life, so that we have a longer life, and so that it's more enjoyable, that we can enjoy our life to the fullest and truly eliminate heart attacks.
All right, Karen, where are we at?
Well, we've made the thin white sauce, and now I'm adding some cheese just to kind of give it a little bit of that cheese flavor.
Okay.
I believe that.
Yep, and melt that until it's heated. And as Betsy just mentioned, we have a lot going on with our community health districts. And if you don't know who your district leader is yet, be sure to get a hold of us here at the Heart of New Ulm. Our second quarter has started, and our focus is on coloring your plate. Our nutrition basis quarter will take you through a lot of new recipes, cooking classes, and other events focused on your nutrition. We're continuing our effort to get you to exercise that 150 minutes a week. That quarter didn't end, it's just extended into this one as well. Be sure to look at our website or any of our flyers to get engaged in some of our upcoming activities.
Yeah, so we use like a 3 cheese or 6 cheese blend, but I usually use like the 2% or the skim cheese, so we are lowering the fat in that. And then I usually add a little extra Parmesan because that tends to give it a little bit more of the flavor I like. But again, that could be adjusted too.
Sure.
People like different kinds of things. So.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and cut up the crab meat here.
And this is about 8 ounces, so a regular package of this is going to be just what you need, right?
Yeah. I like that much crab meat in mine. People could probably put less, but I do like it a lot. So.
Good. And it is your source of protein. We are adding some cheese to this. You can get protein there, but not enough to count for a full serving. So the crab meat is important if you're making this a complete meal to include your protein with it. So a good choice.
Yeah, and this one is flaked, so you could flake it if you want to take the time to do that. I'm just kind of chopping it, but you could flake it if you'd rather do that, and it probably would work in there too, just like that.
Yeah.
So then I just put my vegetables back in. And again, once you get everything back in there, then you don't have a lot of sauce. It's not real saucy. It's pretty more vegetables and the protein and that kind of thing, and that linguine, and just a little bit of sauce coating it. So
I think that's a good point, Karen. You know, sometimes when we order at an Italian restaurant, we receive our meals and they're drenched in these sauces, and that is really just an exorbitant amount of calories. So this is a good lesson in that you don't want to put so much in there. You can still have the flavor without it being absolutely covered in it. So that's great. This recipe would work well with other foods such as chicken breast, anything that you'd like to add into that that's a lean protein. You could even use a pork loin, whatever you'd like for that protein base. So, this is a good base recipe that you can definitely make modifications to.
Yeah, and I've used chicken. Yeah,
Good.
Chicken cubes in it before. It works just fine.
Great.
And actually, my husband prefers the chicken, so frequently we just do the chicken. And
all right. Now something like this is a complete meal, so we don't need to add anything on the side. If you would like a dessert, a good fruit cup would go well with this. It's going to end on a good sweet note, and it's not going to add extra calories, but this is definitely a complete meal that doesn't require anything else. Oftentimes we add a lot of extra calories by putting that piece of garlic bread or a breadstick on the side, and it's just not necessary. We have plenty of pasta in there, so that's taking up that carbohydrate choice.
And frequently I do match this up with just a fruit, and sometimes I serve it with a lettuce salad with a balsamic vinegar dressing with actually no oil in it at all, just to have I like vegetables. So.
Yeah. And you can tell this is going to be a filling meal, and this saucepan here is going to be about 3 to 4 servings, so you're going to get a good sized meal out of this, so this is going to be great.
And basically, you just kind of mix it up in there and get everything covered with the sauce, and then it's ready to go.
All right.
And it is actually good leftovers too, because I've done that before. So
let's get it in our plate and get it ready to serve. Yeah, that looks really great, Karen. You can see that melted cheese too. I can see there's going to be a lot of flavor in there. Karen, this was a very quick meal, and yet this is something that at a restaurant we'd pay a lot of money for. So, take these recipes, see how you can adapt them into your home and serve them to your family. If you're not used to the whole wheat pasta, a dish like this would be great because you're really not going to even notice in there. You're not going to notice the difference, and you're going to get the extra fiber. So that looks great.
And there's a lot of recipes. I think we all think that it's faster to go out to eat, and I think really honestly you can do a nice meal in about 30 minutes, and by the time you get to the restaurant and order and get your food, it's more than 30 minutes.
Exactly. So. And with the healthy benefits to this one, far outweigh anything you're going to get at a restaurant, so it looks great. Well, Karen, you did a wonderful job, and this looks like a great recipe. We really appreciate you coming in.
Well, thanks for having me.
As well as your partnership through SHIP and your public health with promoting the Heart of New Ulm, so thanks for being here.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's this week's episode of What's Cooking New Ulm. We'll see you again next week.